Real talk for a sec. Have you ever read Berserk? Berserk is a very, very interesting manga series. It's been around for quite some time, and it is still ongoing to this day. And recently, a few years ago, it was revitalized with a new anime series following three special movie releases that go over the first arc of the Berserk story. There's a lot that I personally enjoy about this series. From its art style, to its character design, to its story even. It's a very gritty, dark, and disturbing story that is not necessarily for a younger audience and is also not necessary for the faint of heart either. But because Berserk is such a dark, immersive series, I think that's what makes it so good, and that's why the fan base for it has been craving steady releases for the manga series so that we can get to the dramatic conclusion that we're all waiting for. So the first thing that's really important to note about the Berserk series is the main character. The main character is a swordsman by the name of Guts. That's it. No last name, no middle initial. His name is just Guts. That's what he was called since the day he was born, and as the story progresses, you'll see why he is very deserving of that name. Guts is an amazing character. This is one of the first series that I remember being so invested into, where the main hero was somewhat considered an anti-hero. And it is easy to see with modern standards of what a hero is that Guts would be considered an anti-hero, because there are times when he does things that can be considered not so heroic. But at the same time, Guts is clearly the hero of the story, because he is the one who is fighting demons and monsters and evil. But he does do it in his own dark swordsman kind of way. What makes Guts such an incredible character, similar to what I mentioned before with Joseph Joestar, is that we see the entirety of Guts' life. I mean the entirety. The first couple volumes of Berserk show him in the future, after a particular event that I will get to later. And after, we see him for a few volumes with, his arm for a cannon, his badass sword. We go back in time. We see something called the Golden Age arc. And in fact, that's what the three Berserk movies that came out a couple years ago revolved around. The Golden Age arc. Before this particular event that I will talk about as we get deeper and deeper into this video. So the Golden Age arc, it starts off with Guts being born. Well, we don't really see him being born. We see how he was found. Guts was born after his dead mother was hung from a tree, and he was born out of her corpse. So that's how the story starts with this character. So he was picked up by a swordsman, mercenary named Gambino. And Gambino, while being the only father figure Guts ever had, was kind of a dick. And when I say kind of a dick, I mean like really a dick. He is the reason why Guts has that scar across the bridge of his nose, because when they were sword training, Guts was using a sword that was too big for him, and Gambino sliced him across his face. And he might have also sold Guts' body to a teammate of his that was like sexually attracted to Guts. Now Guts was a little boy at the time, so that's kind of creepy, and it's pretty gross. And so from the very beginning, we know that Guts' story is not going to be one that is easy to read, easy to watch, or even easy to understand. It's dark. Very, very dark. So as Guts progresses through his childhood and grows older, he starts to gain fighting skills, training with Gambino, etc. And eventually, Gambino starts to get angry at Guts because Gambino is injured and can no longer fight. So what does he do? He gets really drunk and he attacks Guts in this drunken fury. And when he does, Guts does what Guts does best, and he slaughters his dad. Now, in self-defense, the intention of Guts was not to murder Gambino. But the mercenary group didn't believe that. So, of course, they pursue Guts. He runs away, and then he's forced to live on his own as a lone mercenary. So the next stage of Guts' life that we see, he is a bit older, he is much more battle ready, and we see him on a battlefield fighting against a rival kingdom. As a mercenary, he works for money, and that's pretty much it. He likes the thrill of battle, and he likes to eat, so he does what he knows how to do best. Go around killing people. So this fight that we see with Guts, he's fighting this gigantic knight named Bezuzo. And Guts comes in and he cleaves his face and like the eyeball pops out and there's like blood blushing everywhere. It's a pretty ridiculous scene. And Guts being so small in comparison to this big knight, he grabs the attention of a character who we will learn to love and we will learn to hate, named Griffith. And Griffith is this leader of the Band of the Hawk, a superior, top-tier mercenary group. So after seeing Guts destroy Bezuzo, Griffith decides that, yeah, this is the guy that I'm going to need on my team if I'm going to live out my dreams of conquering and being my own king in a kingdom. So, Griffith has a fight with Guts, tricks him a little bit. He defeats Guts in battle, though Guts puts up good resistance. And Guts is a member of the Band of the Hawk. Now, throughout the Golden Age arc, we see some beautiful character development, beautiful moments from all these interactions that Guts has with these people. And for the first time in Guts' life, and one of the few times in Guts' life, he has this sense of friendship, and he feels like he's part of a group that genuinely cares about him. And the people genuinely do care about him, from taking care of him when he's sick to forcing him to come drink in celebration with them. They might be mercenaries, but the Band of the Hawk was an excellent group of people. Some characters to note are Pippin, this really, really big guy who didn't say much, but he doesn't have to. There's Judo, which was one of my favorites. He's like a slim dude. He throws knives and stuff. He's a cool guy. He was a cool guy. And the third central character of this story, Casca. Casca is a woman. And as a woman mercenary in this fictional world of Midland and this, time period of like the Dark Ages, seeing a woman knight was particularly rare. And she's an awesome swordsman. She's very badass. And she's a little offstandish to Guts at first. But after going through some instances where Guts protects her and Guts saves her life, she starts to warm up to him. Now, the reason why this arc is called the Golden Age arc is because in Guts' life, this is indeed the Golden Age. Now, the Golden Age arc, when compared to some of the other arcs later in the series, like, when Guts gets the Berserker armor, or when Guts makes his travel to the Fairy Kingdom in the mountain, it can seem to not live up to the other arcs, but that's not the point. The point of the Golden Age arc, for understanding the central character of Guts and the driving force behind the series Berserk, is that this time period in Guts' life was the Golden Age. These were the best years of Guts' life. They were the happiest years of Guts' life. Before he became a one-armed, one-eyed, black-armored swordsman, he was a mercenary in a group with his friends that were his family, and he had people that loved him and cared about him. But I'll get to that very shortly. So the Golden Age arc continues. And what ends up happening is that Griffith starts to go towards the dark side. Guts begins to get confused with what he wants out of his life and who he wants to be. And he realizes that being with Griffith is not healthy for him. He's forced to do some things and kill some people that he doesn't necessarily want to, but he does out of loyalty to his comrade Griffith, who is his shining knight, his leader, the guy that everybody wants to be. So Guts does it. But Guts starts to have some second thoughts. And he says, all right, Griffith, we're going to fight again. And if I beat you, my contract is up, you no longer own me, and I get to go my way. So Griffith agrees, thinking that he can defeat Guts. But this isn't as easy as the first time that they fought. This is many years later. So of course, Guts beats Griffith. Guts walks off and goes on his merry way. This is the beginning of the end of the Band of the Hawk and the Golden Age arc. So, losing Guts was a severe blow to Griffith's morale. He starts to become very depressed and confused because Guts was really the main reason why the Band of the Hawk was able to elevate to the point that it did. Guts was so good that he was getting Griffith his own kingdom as long as they won this war for Midland. But Griffith begins to lose faith in himself and his men, so he does something a little bit crazy. And he might have, had some sexual relations with a young princess who had daddy issues because her dad was kind of a creep. And of course, seeing that this virgin girl was quote-unquote violated by Griffith, he doesn't take that too well. And he might have Griffith imprisoned. And he might have starved Griffith and tortured him and cut his tendons so he can't walk or move, and ripped out his tongue so he cannot speak. It's pretty gruesome. And thankfully, we don't get to see all of that disgusting, torture-y bits. We kind of see where it starts and we see the end result. But thank God we don't see all of it, because the end result is not pretty. So Griffith goes missing, and the Band of the Hawk becomes pursued severely by all these kingdoms of Midland, wanting to have revenge for, what Griffith did to the princess. And so, lo and behold, what happens is Guts hears about the Band of the Hawk being pursued, and he returns to lead them to save Griffith. And they release this siege on the castle. And the siege on the castle is such an amazing scene. There are so many epic moments where Guts just cleaves through people to save Griffith. And they do. And it's awesome. But what Guts finds is not awesome. He finds a broken, damaged, and disturbed Griffith. See, one thing that's really important to understand about this is that Griffith never forgave Guts. Griffith never believed that Guts had a right to leave. Griffith wanted Guts to stay by his side till the day that one of them died. But Guts didn't. Guts he needed to be his own person and move on. But Griffith couldn't get over that. Hence why Griffith got himself in such a disgusting, gross, sorry state. So they rescue this broken Griffith, and they're escaping. And lo and behold, there's this little red gem that Griffith has had on his neck the entirety of the series. That's referenced a few times, but otherwise it's pretty negligible. It's called a bailet. And what a bailet is, it's this little itty-bitty gem that has this face on it, but the face is contorted, so the nose is on one side, the eyes are on the other, But this bailet is different than every other bailet in the entirety of the world. It's red. Blood red. Crimson. And this bailet is called the Egg of the King. And this Egg of the King is why the most disturbing, disgusting, vile scene of any manga or anime series I've ever read or ever watched happens. And this is the end of the Golden Age arc. It's called the Eclipse. The Eclipse is an interesting event. It's a landmark for the series. So throughout the first few volumes of Berserk, it's him in the future. And then the rest up to volume 13, they're all things of Guts in the past. We see him with both eyes, both arms. And the Eclipse is the reason why he loses his eye, loses his arm, and loses every single person that he ever cared about in an instant. So before I talk about the Eclipse, let me explain what a bailet is. So a bailet is like a little gem that when activated, it gives the user a demonic wish, a wish with a twist. And in order to use a Beylit to grant that wish, you need to sacrifice someone important to you. It can't be a random stranger. It can't be someone you don't care about. It needs to be someone that you love. So in order to use the Egg of the King to gain his kingdom, in order to ascend beyond his mortal coil, Griffith sacrifices the Band of the Hawk. And it is disgustingly brutal. So in this scene, this whole manga book, it's just all these horrible, disgusting demons coming out of this like flesh wall with like screaming faces, just ripping apart the Band of the Hawk. And it's just vile. Everything about the moment of the eclipse just sums up what is so revolting yet so beautiful about Berserk. And we see what happens to Guts. So after all of his friends are dead, there's like this gigantic pool of these corpses that are being devoured by these demons. And Guts looks up and he sees that Casca, his best friend, his lover, his partner, is being sexually violated by Griffith. And it's like really gross. Like, I'm not going to show any of that here because I don't want to show any of that biz. But if you read Berserk, like, you need to understand, like, you're going to see some bad stuff. And it is bad what happens to her. And the worst part, for Guts at least, is that he has to watch. He is forced to watch because this demon comes down and like bites his arm and holds up his head with a claw mark like in his eye, like it rips out his eye, and like forces him to watch poor Casca get violated by Griffith, who used to be their leader, their friend, this knight in shining armor. And at that point, he becomes the most vile and hated demon in Guts' opinion. So after that, the eclipse ends. Griffith turns into Femto, which is a member of the God Hand, a demon group that is responsible for all the madness going on in this world. And Guts makes a vow. He vows that he will have his revenge, and he will murder Griffith as brutally and painfully as possible to get revenge for what has happened to him. And that motive is incredible because the build-up for it is so great. We spent 13 manga volumes, or if you watch the movies, there's 3 movies that go over the Golden Age arc. Or if you watch the classic Berserk series, there's the whole season leading up to the eclipse. So there's this constant build-up of what this event is going to be. What was the event that made Guts turn into the swordsman he is? And that's the eclipse. And that's why it's so great as a milestone for the series. So Guts goes off and he takes a damaged Casca who is basically reverted back to being a child because of the torture that she went through. She's broken. And Guts is broken too. And both of them get branded with this curse mark that makes them pretty much targets for demons, that saying that it's like basically like a meal ticket, saying that, hey, look, you can eat this person. The God Hand has said so. So every night, Guts has to fight demons to avoid dying. And then by day, he has to carry this broken Casca, trying to lead her to safety and protect her. Now, as the series goes on, Guts does get some allies that are genuine people, some good people that believe in him and want to help him slay the evil that is plaguing this world. But Guts is a badass dude. So with the arm that he lost during the eclipse, he puts a cannon on it, right? And it shoots like a big-ass cannon blast, and there's also like a repeating crossbow. It's pretty sweet. But the mark of Guts, the best part about Guts, is his sword, Dragon Slayer. It's this big, gigantic sword that's like, it has to weigh like over hundreds of pounds. It's like 6 feet long, and it's basically a slab of raw iron on this like metal stick, right? And eventually, it gets to the point that he slayed so many demons that it can slay on both the physical and the ethereal plane. Yeah, I know that sounds kind of weird, but it's pretty badass. So I talked excessively about the story of Guts and the story of Berserk. But that's not just what makes it good. If you look at the art style of Berserk, there's some excellent techniques used, especially in shading, because manga series are not typically done in color unless for like a special volume, say like, the Dragon Ball Z ones or something like that. So they're always done in black and white. And the author, Kentaro Miura, has such an incredible knack for drawing these characters, for using a contrast of light and dark, especially when involving the characters of Guts and Griffith. Griffith is always showing wearing radiant white armor except when he turns into Femto. And Guts is always wearing black armor because that's what he is. He's the black swordsman. It's a beautiful art style, and it perfectly complements the world. It's murky and dark and disturbing. But when I read it or watch it, at least the first anime series, I'm always awestruck by the excessive detail that's put into every single frame, every character. And as the series goes on, it only gets better. Like it's easy to see why he makes it a manga volume once every month or every couple months. It takes a long time to get these volumes for Berserk out, but it's gonna be worth it. If this series ends, and I'm sure, like all good things, it will come to an end, I am sure that we're gonna see Griffith get destroyed in the most brutal and terrible way possible, and it's gonna be awesome. There's gonna be this buildup of Guts coming in with his sword and just cleaving through Griffith, and Griffith is gonna stand there begging Guts for forgiveness, and it's gonna be so amazing. And Guts will finally get that revenge for what happened to him during the eclipse. So if you made it to this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. I know I kind of talked a lot about Berserk, and I do apologize if I kind of gushed a bit. It's just such an incredible series to me, and I just want it to be supported, and I want it to be shared, and I want people to like the stuff that I like. So if you're in for a dark, gritty series, Berserk is the one to go to. But just know, it's violent, it's gory, and there's going to be a lot of stuff that's going to make you uncomfortable. However, one key thing to remember about Berserk is that if you are a demon, Guts will find you, and Guts will kill you. Thank you guys so much for watching. I do know that this video was a little bit long. There's just so much to talk about with the Berserk series that I couldn't really fit it all into one long video. So I am going to make a few more videos talking about the anime series and how they stack up to the original manga series. And maybe I'll talk about a video game or two when we get towards the end. Well, join me next time on Kirk Talk, where I will talk about Berserk, the anime series. The first one. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.